Hello all and welcome to episode 70 of the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy podcast by fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. And we are back with our Christmas bellies wobbling away as the overhaul edges ever closer. My name is Fergi and I'm joined today as usual by my co-host Paul McAnulty. Paul, how was your festive break and New Year first? Have you put on any weight or have you managed to maintain?
For those with the video on, you'll see the exercise bike in the back. So that's the New Year's resolution started, exercise bike and gym going. I've had to hang up my football boots at the end of last year, continuous back problems. So had an excellent break, had quite a bit of time off work as well. So it was all good.
Very good. Yeah, I just noticed that in the background. That's a like archetypal early January sort of scenery there, Paul, in it with the water and the exercise bike. Good stuff. Yeah, had a nice break. Really enjoyed this last week as well with no sort of Premier League football. To be honest, it's nice to have a bit of a recharge after the absolute chaos of Christmas and New Year. Just literally waiting for lineups before you even get to think about what transfers you got to make. It's been a tough old time, that's for sure. In terms of Sky, Paul, I can see you're ranked exactly 100 at the moment. Did you have to use many transfers to get there, or did you manage to just kind of hold rank over Christmas and New Year?
Yeah, I used a couple of transfers, but I wasn't making any moves in advance. The transfers I did make were those where I saw the team sheets for the team lineups and made the moves on the day. I think gone are the days where I make a transfer 2 weeks in advance of trying to gain an extra couple of fixtures before a single day captaincy, knowing that a player could end up with COVID or a game could get canned now pretty late in the day. So yeah, been holding off and just using them as and when I can see what's in front of me.
Yeah, same. I think the only one I've used in the last 2 or 3 weeks actually, I brought in Bowen, and it was quite a timely move actually. I think he got an assist in the first game, but I had him for that game where I think he score and get 2 assists or something, or no, he had 3 assists in one of the games. Yeah, that was really nice. So I got him. He was still reasonably low owned then. I think some have jumped on him since, but yeah, I haven't used many at all and managed to hold rank, which I suppose in this period of uncertainty is kind of all you can hope for in it. So for any new watchers and listeners, you're very, very welcome. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and set the alerts so you don't miss our podcasts and live streams. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content. It would be much, much appreciated. Looking at who we've got in the lobby today, we have got Neil Sky FF. Glad to be able to watch this one live today. Apologies for the late start, by the way, but we got there eventually. Gareth Pay, Glenn Murray, Norman Conquest, Ben McCrum is watching this secretly on his phone while working. Brilliant. Kermit the Winger is on, as is Metallica. David Baxter. David has said, good afternoon, guys. Watched since day one, but first time here live. Very, very welcome, David. Great to have you with us. Matt Woolley and Glenn asks Norman, what's he going to spend the 50k on? And Norman replies, prostitutes and drugs. So let's set the tone for the rest of the first one. For the rest of the podcast. So what we're going to look at today, first we're going to look at the highest owned players, as we always do, which has switched around somewhat over New Year with AFCON and injuries taking their toll. We will take a look at the fixtures until overhaul, and then specifically at the coming game weeks 22, which is this midweek, and 23, before taking on plenty. We've had masses and massive questions on Twitter. We'll be able to answer them all, but we will look at the ones that we haven't answered throughout. We'll take a quick look at my team update and plans and some mini league stand-ins. So firstly, Paul, we have the ownership up for the top 1K as it stands. Some big changes just right at the top 3. João Cancelo is now the highest owned player in the game, probably quite rightly, to be fair, because he scores a minimum of like 4 points every single game, does he? Yep. 97%. Ronaldo up to 91.6. Conor Gallagher 89, and then Rudiger at 78, and then we go down into the 50s then. But what are your kind of observations, Paul, over the last 2 weeks, how this has changed?
The Ronaldo one, it's almost like a fear movement, isn't it?
It is.
Like it was the obvious move, and everyone made it and didn't want to lose track, because I don't think I've ever seen a player who's not in as great form get as much traction as that before. But it was all those single captaincy days, and I guess the ease of the switch from Salah for those that moved off onto Ronaldo that didn't already hold him as well. I've highlighted 5 players in the top 1K ranks that have a quick kind of couple of lines on. So Salah 52%. So there's still 52% of managers own Salah, and you imagine that they will still want to move off Salah. Those that have transfers left still. So we could see those transfer stats coming down again with the movement off him. Smith Rowe in 14% of teams. He wasn't in the matchday squad for the Nottingham Forest game. He also hasn't played started the last in the 3 or 4 games in the Prem as well. So I imagine people might still want to move off of Smith Rowe. Son's now injured, 16% of teams, so he had taken a kind of jump up. I know a lot of people had moved off Salah early and moved on to Son, so it's been a bit unfortunate there, and probably another transfer used by people before the overhaul. Dennis, 27% of teams, so not going to AFCON now, although there's something like, did he really have a knock when he got taken off at halftime? Is that an attitude thing? I guess that's kind of the questions fantasy managers are asking themselves. I think a popular move will be Gallagher to a Watford player on Saturday. I've got real concerns that you don't get to see the Watford lineup before making that move.
Good point.
If it's something that I consider, I might actually hold off and just get more information and then pick the Watford player up against Burnley on the Tuesday night instead, if I decide to go down that route. And then Demarai Gray, he's jumped back up to 22%. So he was obviously very well owned earlier on the season when he went on that real good run of point scoring, went down and then's come back up. And I think a few people made the move thinking that the Everton captaincy against Leicester, that would cover them off nicely today. So could have been burned a little bit there.
It is just a case at the moment today. We've had a couple of questions around change to our approach, and I think my approach has been over the last 2 or 3 weeks just literally wait until the night to make a transfer, because that's the only way you're kind of guaranteed they're going to play army. I think a lot of people have been burnt and stuff, and it'll fall kind of differently for different people. Some will get slightly lucky and some won't with things of injuries and COVID and stuff, but we had a couple of questions around should we be making plans like now, for example, basically up until overhaul. I think you can make them, but I would also say like a really good example is that one for Dennis on Saturday. Like the worst thing that could happen is he doesn't play then, but you've got him in for the Tuesday, and then you find out he's got COVID or he's been dropped or something, and then you've not only wasted transfer for that, you've wasted it for the Tuesday as well. So
it's the Friday night that everybody were waiting for. So that's 2 games.
Of course,
down the road
it's 2
as
games.
well.
It's 2 games. Yeah. So it is. It's a bit of a killer that is. And I suppose, like my advice personally, for what it's worth, would just be because you're not going to probably use him as captain on Saturday, would be to maybe hold off until the Tuesday. At least then you've reduced the odds of him play. Sorry, increased the odds of him playing then on that Friday if he's starting on Tuesday. But would that be your advice as well, Paul?
That's my current plan. So I've currently got two transfers penciled down before overhaul. One of them being Gallagher, or if a player got injured or COVID, etc. I could be flexible to move on to the Watford player, and it would be on the Tuesday that I'll do it as opposed to the Saturday, I think.
Cool. West Ham players are going to be very popular tomorrow evening as well, obviously, because they have Norwich at home, which is probably the plum fixture at the time, and a couple of highly owned players there. Bowen is up to 50%, Antonio at 20%. For those, like I suppose I'm interested in this. We'll talk about this a bit more when we kind of get to it in the fixtures. But would a double up, because you get to see the lineups there, would that be potentially more profitable than trying to be a bit too clever with captaincies? Just an example, do you think?
You're thinking. I can see into your mind that I think I can see you're thinking. Would you, if you had Salah still, would you move to Norgard tonight to get the captaincy and then the Brentford games, or would you go Antonio tomorrow? Well, even if it's not what you're thinking, this is exactly what I'm thinking, and I'm almost on the. I think I'd rather hold off and do the Antonio move
Really?
than get the extra move.
What about Mbomo? Bear in mind he scored a hat trick on the weekend.
So the thing about Norgard is that I'd love to say that he's guaranteed bonus because he's not guaranteed bonus, but he does well in tackling bonus. He gets the very odd passing bonus, the very odd shots bonus as well. But it's tackling bonus that Sky fantasy managers are bringing him in for, I believe. And you look at it on the surface, like Salah's not going to play before overhaul. Brentford's got 4 games, 5 double if you double the captaincy for tonight. So you got 5 games. And he's kind of averaging around about 4 points a game. So 20 points, perfect. That's kind of what we were looking for from a transfer, like 15 to 20 points. So the fact that Brentford's got more difficult games, like they play Southampton tonight, but then they play Man United and they play Liverpool and Wolves, I think is the other game. So you think that the tackle bonus opportunity increases against tougher opposition, and therefore, but their in tackle tent against Man United and Liverpool decreases, I think.
I don't think
and
it does
Wolves
against
as
United
well.
personally. I honestly I see United
Well,
as the bottom 3.
Yeah. I think the thing with Man United, everybody's slating them defensively, and they've not because they keep conceding and keep conceding chances. But there's not. I had a look back at their history. There's not often that they've conceded more than 1 goal. Like they've played bad defensively. So
fair point.
Looking at it from that point of view, if I was going for a Brentford player, I think I'd go Norgard over Mbuemo for those reasons. But I'm still slightly favouring Antonio.
It smacks of this Holding and Lacazette thing from last week, where Holding will tide you over very tidily, but the potential big upside is with someone like Lacazette, and I think that's what I'm looking at with it. You only need Mbumo to score 1 goal as captain this evening, or even get an assist, and then get appearance points in the other, in the other 3 games to probably outdo Norgard over the 5 games. Go on,
do you know what I started thinking about? I started thinking about this Norgard move when I was in the gym yesterday. I was thinking about it quite intently, and I think that I was considering the move through fear as opposed to anything else. And I think I was getting my head in that Twitter bubble because I saw that what's everyone's intention? Oh, I'm going to move Salah to Norgard, do this to Norgard, and then I look at Dan. It wasn't on FF stuff. He'd done a Twitter poll. I don't think Dan will mind me sharing it if you just give me 1 second. But I think it came back that it was 70% we're going to go without a captain, and that's from 350 Sky managers who they're on Twitter, so you feel that they're more active and engaged with being in the Twitter community as well. So I think that I was getting hoodwinked by the kind of Twitter bubble about wanting to do the Norgard move when I had always penciled in the Antonio move anyway. So I think I'm just going to stick with that.
Norgard as well. He gets all those points, and he hasn't had any attacking returns. But he's also, if you watch their long throws and their free kicks and corners, he's always in there as well, right? And he hasn't got an attack return for quite a while actually, but he's in there. It's better than having like a defender. So I think that I'm going to make the Norgard move personally. I've got kind of well above average transfers, and I think it keeps me quite tidily in there. If you went for Antonio tomorrow as well as Bowen, who would you captain out of interest?
I'd captain Bowen because of the way that I play the game, and I would, because his percentage ownership is going to be much higher.
So you think that Antonio in his remaining?
Well, so I've got Salah, right, and I need to take Salah out for someone.
Same as me.
I'm exactly the same. And the two options I've come down to is Norgard versus Antonio.
Yeah.
And I get 5 games out of Norgard and 3 games out of Antonio. Like, taking captaincy aside, because I'm already including that in the 5 games for Norgard, but not for Antonio, because it's like 3 games, and if I captain somebody else on those days. But against Norwich and Leeds, you just slated Man United defensively. So that's West Ham's 3 fixtures. Do I think Antonio could potentially score more than Norgard in 5 games, and I think he could.
But you're not going to captain him. I could understand if there was a
What
captaincy
doesn't what
option.
doesn't matter? What doesn't matter?
Even if he
What doesn't
scores,
matter?
even if he scores a goal in all 3,
Yeah,
which is
21
I
points.
guess
Like 21 points.
probably unlikely. Score a goal in all 3 games. I think he scored against Norwich, if he plays all 3 as well, obviously. But I don't know.
Well, that's then does Norgard play all 5, all 4, like 5 including the captaincy?
Yeah. It's pretty even, I think. I think there's more upside with Norgard because if he does get any kind of attack in return in addition to his bonus, that's massive. That is, he gets an assist. If he gets a goal as well as bonus, that's the 20 points done in one game with like.
Yeah, you're
3 games to
so you're saying if a defensive midfielder gets a goal in a game, then
no, but he's in there. He's in the box, and I only know because I nearly brought him in about a month back. and I never. And because of these, I kind of watch and listen, and Norgard nearly on the end of that. Norgard heads just wide. This sort of thing is I take your point.
My other thing
far
is
more likely
both,
to score than Norgard, right? I take your point.
My other thing is that I could make 2 moves and bring in Norgard and Antonio, which is also I'm deliberating as well.
I'm thinking of that as well, maybe, but let's come to that when we get. We just talked through the whole of one of our the whole of one of our topics. But what we've got now, so this is from Ian Parrin's fixture planner on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk Sky Transfer Planner, and it just gives a brief look at all the teams and all the fixtures that they've got left until the overhaul. As we've already mentioned, Brentford are the only team who've got 4 games left. Plenty have got 3, and there are a few who've only got 2. Just looking down, Arsenal have only got 2. I think Palace have got 2. Everton have got 2. Leeds have got 2. Liverpool have got 2. Man City have got 2. Newcastle have got 2. And Wolves have got 2. So there's plenty, of opportunity if you want to kind of make a few moves and gain extra games. I'm still nervous because you've got De Gea and I've got Ramsdale, so that whole 3 for 2 thing is still is still got nerve wracking. And De Gea, he's like Ramsdale, right? He just makes so many saves, even though it seems to me at the moment it looks like Arsenal have tightened up actually, because I think in the last game against Man City, Ramsdale didn't make a save, I don't think, or maybe made one. Yeah. Whereas normally he tends to make a lot of saves to make up the bonus. Whereas De Gea is just making save after save after save, but they can't keep a clean sheet, can they? How they didn't concede last night in the FA Cup was absolutely beyond me. Villa absolutely battered them, and Lindelof. I mean, that United defence is an absolute shambles. Like my boy plays under 11s football, and they defend better than Man United. They are just awful. But anyway, in terms of the these fixtures, Paul, that are left, do you aside from the 2 you mentioned there, you look at any other opportunities with the way the fixtures land to potentially get some extra games? Or
other than the Watford one, and that's because that covers that captaincy against Norwich. That's the only other team that I'm really considering. I think most have a mixed bag. For those that are still holding Mendy, or like a Ben Rama, or Son as well, there's nothing other than what I've talked about before. So a Brentford player for the captaincy, maybe Ward-Prowse. I wouldn't, if you were getting rid of somebody and you already had Antonio in your team, I wouldn't advise against somebody getting Ward-Prowse if you were definitely going to make that move, because you get the 4 games including as a double captaincy for tonight as well. But yeah, sorry, on the Mendy move, do I think De Gea scores 15 points in 3 games? Quite possibly. So I'd maybe make that move. Yeah. But nothing else really massively appealed to me. Like a couple of weeks ago, I had penciled in a Spurs asset in my head, like with the way that I thought the fixtures would fall and the captaincy requirements. But I just don't see the need to bring in Kane now at all.
Yeah, they're the one, aren't they? Spurs and Brentford, I think, are the 2 teams who have the 3 fixtures, which all fall kind of after everyone else's with the 2 left. They're the 2 teams you can get like an extra game out of. Yeah. So I'm still not sure on the Spurs, and I think I think again, as it is at the moment, like, and this is it's quite hard on the podcast at the moment to kind of recommend anything, but I suppose what I'm going to look at is at that time when the Spurs team sheet is released on Sunday the 16th, if I see an opportunity potentially for like a 3-0. So if one of my players is injured, for example, I know they're going to miss the games till overhaul. You know that someone like maybe Kane, for example, will have 3 games, or should have 3 games, for example, to that person's 0. So then if you think they will get 15 or 20 points in that time, but I think it's very much, I think all we can really do at this point in it is kind of highlight these opportunities for people to make their own decision, their own decision at that time. And it's so tough to do. Just a bit on Ward-Prowse. A couple of people have said, and John L in the chat has just mentioned as well, that Ward-Prowse might be playing right back tonight because of Southampton's injuries and suspensions, which is interesting again, because if they're that depleted, Southampton as well, then that Brent, look, I can see you. I know what I'm going to say, but maybe that makes Brentford attacking players.
Norgaard's attacking.
I was thinking more of Mbeumo and Tony, but
yeah.
Let's have a look then at that. At this evening, this much talked about this evening, Southampton versus Brentford. You mentioned that on Dan's poll there was 65%, whatever it was, of players are thinking of skipping it. Is that something you're considering, or why are you considering making a change?
Well, I've got one player that I definitely I've got Salah, so I definitely need to get rid of him for someone. And it's going back. Do I think Norgaard scores more points than Antonio, because they're the 2 players that I really want? And I'm still not sure. I still think Antonio's upside higher than Norgaard's over 3 games, even though Norgaard gets 5. But I'm considering taking out a player that only plays twice to potentially bring in Antonio instead. And therefore, I might do the Norgaard move and the Antonio move tomorrow. I'm the same as you. I'm above average on transfers, and I've been pretty frugal on them as well. So, but yeah, I think I can't really add any more than that.
No, it makes sense. I messed up Dan this morning. Actually, I'm just gonna, his plans were to move Salah to Tielemans for the 4 Leicester games and the captaincy. Obviously,
that was exactly my move. I would have 100% done that.
Yeah, but now he's he says obviously on the Wednesday night game we'll touch on now. Make sure you've got yourself a West Ham player, because they're very, very likely to have over 100% ownership, and that over 100% effective ownership between Bowen and Antonio, and that fixture is just absolutely plumb at the moment, right? And Dan is considering getting Norgaard, but he says it could be the most boring transfer in Sky history. He's hit tackle bonus 6 times, and he's in 10% of all teams already. And we did have a question actually around whether what we think Norgaard's ownership is going to be tomorrow morning. Do you want to take a punt on that, Paul?
So Salah's at 52%. People with Salah are in the top 1K. Most of those managers will be engaged. So I think they'll look to move him on. And it'll be a split between, I think a few might try the Tony move.
Yeah.
And a few might do the Antonio move as well. As I said though, because Dan's poll suggests that it was just the Twitter bubble that I see a lot of people doing the Norgaard move for, and that people that are answering the poll aren't going for anyone. I'll go for 20%.
Okay. I think it'd be a little bit higher. I'm going to go for 25. Let us know in the chat what you think about that. Jacob Craner's in the chat. Watched since day 1, but my first time catching it live whilst I'm at work. And we had another couple of messages earlier about where people were when they were watching us today on this Tuesday afternoon. I'll see if I can find them now. Todd is watching in his Postman van, having a cheeky break, and El England is watching while waiting to sell his car. So welcome all from wherever you may be tonight. Just on the fixture then on the Wednesday, 12th of January, West Ham against Norwich, as we know. We've had a question from Joseph Robinson, or not a question, rather a statement. He says, and if an interesting differential could be Lanzini, who I see you sneakily put into Telegraph on the weekend, Paul getting a goal. 0.3% of top 1,000 and now on pens. He looks a good option, doesn't he? Is he?
Yeah.
Is he someone you could say to?
If I had say I had Bowen, and I already had Norgaard and I had today's game covered, but I still sat with someone like Smith Rowe or Son. I could definitely see the move to Lanzini appealing, the 3 games. As I say, you just play the fixtures that's in front of you. You've got Norwich at home, you've got Leeds at the weekend, and then, as you say, I had said Man United aren't giving away as many goals as what some people suggest.
You can see West Ham put a couple past them.
Potentially. So you've got 3 games for nothing because you're taking out a player that's not going to play it. I wouldn't move anyone on to Lanzini that has games coming up and was available for those games. But if it was someone that you need to get rid of, I could see him being a viable transfer to the overhaul.
Norman Conquest says he thinks Norgard will be in 28% of teams on the chat. So we've gone through this, West Ham and Norwich game. Obviously, highly recommend that you get someone in. Bowen's ownership at 50%. I don't think it's just his ownership. His ownership is what it is because he's been playing basically up alongside Antonio. He's absolutely rapid. He's scoring goals for fun. It kind of looks almost like a bit like the relationship that Tony and Bowen had at the start of the season, where Antonio is playing the ball into Bowen a lot more like they did on the weekend. And I think that
like the Kane-Son partnership. It's kind of like the Kane-Son partnership as well, because Bowen gets the share of the set pieces as well.
This is it. So I think that Bowen is probably the best option, I would say, and not just because of the ownership. I personally think he's the best option. Antonio isn't playing at the moment like he's been playing over the last couple of seasons. He's not dominating the back line. He's not in the 6-yard box or constantly. I think they're trying to play a bit more on the break, I think, and Bowen is having far more of attacking share because of that. Moving on then onto the weekends, we've already mentioned Brighton versus Palace. Lots of people will still be holding on to Gallagher, as we know. If no one else, if no one's got a captain for that game, Paul, would you recommend bringing in someone for that?
Brighton's reverted back to a back 4 in some games recently, so it's not like any of their players are nailed on for passing bonus like they usually are as well. I think they'll wait until Dunk comes back to before I have another look at Brighton.
And Saturday the 15th, we get to see the lineups for Man City and Chelsea. I really feel sorry. I've had loads of Chelsea defenders in all of the formats, but not really in Sky. And I feel really sorry for like Reece James owners. Alonso's done okay, to be fair, haven't he? But Reece James owners in particular, I've had a tough one there. So Man City versus Chelsea, get to see the lineups: Wolves, Southampton, Norwich, Everton, Newcastle, Watford, Burnley, Leicester, Villa, Man United. Who is your best captain option on this day, Paul?
It's a tricky one with the Ronaldo news because he'd have been my default captain. I think I'm just going to go Cancelo. I think it's pretty straightforward for me, actually.
Yeah.
Even as a Ronaldo owner, even if he's declared fit, I think I'll go Cancelo.
I don't think Villa, especially after watching them last night, are going to be a pusher. I fancy Villa to beat them. I think on another day,
I thought they looked poor defensively against Brentford last weekend, but
yeah, Mings again last night for the goal. Just I was going with it at the moment. He was awesome last year. This year he doesn't seem to be as kind of on it as he was. But
in fact, he was like the one thing I would say about Mings is I don't rate him as the greatest defender, but when he doesn't play, they look even worse.
Yeah,
and he wasn't playing against Brentford. I'm pretty sure he was suspended, so maybe that was part of the reason, part of my thinking. So
I think just watching the game last night, Villa should have won the game. I would have thought. How United didn't concede, I don't know. And I think I'll be going for Cancelo on this one as well. Like I say, it's just kind of almost crawl into overhaul now, isn't it? It's just and if you're looking for a punt, if you're looking to try and go different, you can maybe go for a Watford player, maybe go for an Aldo, maybe go for someone like that. But that closes off the Saturday. And then the Sunday is West Ham and Leeds. So part B of West Ham's attackers. Liverpool play Brentford, and Spurs and Arsenal. Obviously, we know Salah's not there, so Trent, you would guess, would be maybe popular. West Ham option could be popular. They beat Leeds 2-0 on the weekend, even though Leeds did put out quite a weakened side. I think it's probably fair to say. And Spurs and Arsenal, without Son, Arsenal looking a bit better defensively as well. So what are your thoughts on captaincy for this game? Would it be your West Ham attack?
Jared Bowen.
It would
just Jared Bowen. I could see the appeal if a Jota owner or a Trent owner putting the armband on either of those. But I always feel like I've not owned a Liverpool defender in Sky all season, and I always fear ownership rank drops when Liverpool play. But the fact that West Ham are playing against a team that gives up a lot of chances almost makes me feel does make me feel a lot more comfortable, and no desire to move on to a Liverpool asset, knowing they've only got 2 games left transfer wise. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward one for me. It'll be Bowen if he plays, and if I brought in Antonio and Bowen doesn't play, then it would be him.
I think I might. Again, this is the day, this Sunday the 16th, where Spurs have the 3 for 1, whatever it is, over a lot of teams and stuff, and or a 3 for 0 over anyone who gets COVID, who gets injured for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I think at this point on this day, I'll make a call. I'll look at my team and have a look if is everyone fit, is everyone playing. Even Man City, for example, at this point will only have 1 game left, won't they? So if someone gets injured or banned or whatever else, it's quite because I think this is the benefit as well of going to someone like Norgard. Is it basically means you can upgrade any player in your team up to Kane, for example, as well. I think that's just like another additional benefit of going for someone like Norgard. It means you can maybe do someone like Bernardo Silva up to Kane or something, just as an example. But yeah, I'll be looking on that day. Let's just touch briefly on Tuesday and Wednesday. Burnley versus Watford, Brighton and Chelsea. We will be back before this, but let's just briefly touch on them. Either Watford attacking asset or Chelsea defender. Who would be your kind of choice at the moment?
As much as Chelsea aren't great defensively, Brighton aren't great attacking wise. So I think I'll just put on Rudiger again. Play probably the ownership.
Okay.
Stats. And
then Leicester and Spurs and Brentford and United. And I suppose this is an interesting one because obviously Ronaldo, he didn't play last night with this minor spine injury. I'm not sure how many, if you can have a minor spine injury, but it's probably something to do with a twinge in his back or something. You'd guess he'd be back by the weekend. But if he's not back by the weekend, it could be prudent to make that move to Kane on the Sunday with this day in mind on the Wednesday as well, because unless you've got De Gea, which a lot of managers have, then that could be a move to maybe think about as well. Just there. Let's move on to the questions, of which we have had so many questions. Thank you so much, everyone. I know we haven't been on for a couple of weeks, so we're probably playing catch up. I'll try and pick out the questions that we haven't answered. Ian Parrin, with clubs having anywhere between 2, 3 and 4 fixtures, which player do you think will score the most points in this period? So assuming everyone plays every game, Paul, who is the player? I know it's put you on the spot a bit, but who is the player, if you had to pick any player now in the game, who do you think would be the one who scored the most points?
I think Bowen's got the potential.
Who, sorry?
I think Bowen's got the potential.
Bowen. Yeah, that's a good shout. I think either West Ham attacker or Norgard. I think if a Brentford player,
I'm laughing. I don't hate the Norgard move. It was more. I just want to use as little transfers as possible, and I'm weighing up whether Norgard with 5 or Antonio with 3 scores more.
I think. Sorry. I think I'm going to do Norgard in 1, and I think I'm going to go either do Mbeumo or Tony in my B team. I think just for a bit, because if they do manage to, get a goal and assist, or even a goal and shots bonus, that's a big leap for considering a lot of people are thinking of leaving this alone round. Even though Flower Pot Man in the chat says, "Is it just me that votes the most obscure answer on the polls? You're all my rivals." So you do wonder that, I suppose. But yeah. Let's have a look. Gordon asks, would you consider moving Smith Rowe or Gallagher out to Rafinha, or is that a luxury move? It's got to be luxury, right? Well, actually, he says he might use Rafinha as captain on Saturday the 22nd versus Newcastle.
I'm just looking at fixtures. Sorry, 22nd. Man City are playing Southampton. I think I'd definitely captain Cancelo that day anyway.
Yeah, so we'd say no, it's luxury, they're good. And we've answered Luke's NDN question about less advanced plan. Absolutely. It's day-by-day plan at the moment, Luke. And we've answered Kermit questions about Norgard's top 1K ownership. Darren S. asking about planning. Have we changed the way we play the game? We mentioned that earlier. We're definitely playing almost day-by-day at the moment because you just don't know until you see the lineup. The game's even going ahead, never mind who's in the lineup. Todd asks, how much is everyone looking forward to playing this game in the upcoming seasons? Everything's back to normal. You can actually plan properly. Getting so fed up with the postponements. Yeah, I think it is tough. I think the Sky actually though is one of those games personally where you're much more in control of your team than say FPL, and you can actually react a little bit more. In FPL, once the game's locked, you're screwed. You can't do anything. You have zero control over anything you do. So, do you feel as well, Paul? Or?
Yeah. I echo those thoughts.
I think that, in Sky and Telegraph maybe, and maybe even Dream Team as well, in the other 3 games, because you can react mid-game week, and you can make decisions, in Telegraph's case, between every single match, you're far more in control of your team, whereas, than an FPL. Just a quick one from Nichols. King versus Dennis. Are you Analytics FC or Grass FC if prices are relevant? Are you Dennis or King at the moment, Paul?
If I thought that King, if I thought that there was no underlying unrest with Dennis, and I was sure that he was fully fit, I would pick Dennis over King. But I'm not convinced.
Enough. We've answered Norman's question on getting Norgard tomorrow. It's pretty split. I think it depends on your transfer count. So he has 20 transfers left. A 5 for 0 for me is a bit of a no-brainer, personally, because he's only got to get the boner. If he's averaging 4 points a game, he's paid for that transfer as long as he plays all the games. And that's a decision every individual has to make. Clean Sheet Wipeout asks what thoughts of skipping this evening's game. I think we've touched on that. We think it'd be popular actually. Thoughts on KDB? City only played twice. He's not in my thoughts at all. Paul, is he in your thoughts? Or maybe for a rogue captain or two?
One of them's against Chelsea, and then I wouldn't be confident of captain on my way to Southampton in a 5:30 game on a Saturday without seeing the lineups either.
Glenn Murray says, I'm not feeling this Norgard love whatsoever. Might come back to bite me in the arse, but I doubt it. It's hard to argue. He is a pretty boring player, but if you can guarantee 4 or 5 points every game, I think tonight is the night he gets an attack in return. And you'd be sick, Paul. You'd be absolutely sick, wouldn't you, if that happened? I think we've answered the questions from FPL Hambo. He says, what are your thoughts on bringing in Trent if you're going to captain him on both days he plays? He's already got Van Dijk. I just think that's, I wouldn't do it personally.
Yeah,
unless I know you wouldn't, Paul. Unless you chase
I definitely wouldn't. Yeah,
and it's purely unless you're looking to go different, right?
Yep.
Yeah. We've answered Matt's questions around Antonio and things like that. FPL Foxy, how many transfers you both have and will have at overhaul, please? So I'm happy to disclose mine. I've currently got 23, and I think I will be left. I'd like to say 21, but probably 20, I would guess. If I can stay in the top 500 with 20, I think I would be a very, very happy bunny. What you, Paul? How much are you willing to?
I'll have 18 at overhaul. I think.
You'll have 18 at overhaul. Okay, so I have got the chance to overtake you then. SkyFF Bruno, I think we've answered his question. We've answered FPL Heavyweights question as well around best players to cover off single game days. Tom Ford already has Rice. Is it worth bringing in Bowen or Antonio for the captaincy on Wednesday for Son? That's a good question. Bowen, I think.
I'd bring in Bowen as well.
Yeah, we think that's worth it. FPL Spartans, John. This whole kind of Salah to Norgard's number of fixtures against quality of fixtures and all this sort of stuff. We think I think we've kind of gone through those. And Dan says, yeah, it's a very, very boring move, but it is a marathon. We say this at the start, right? Not every week is it's not about every week just trying to bloody race through and make clever moves. Like if you think of the marathon now, the marathon analogy, we're in mile 13 now of 26. Is this a time to make a drastic move, or just just a time to go with the pack? Surely it's time to go with the pack, right? I don't know. That's how I play. And Glenn says Fergie getting his usual free 5 transfers. Absolutely, Glenn. Absolutely not, Glenn. But I would say I've learned off Paul and Dan and Ian and everyone else for this last year or two. And I've been quite lucky that the players got injured and stuff. But the amount of I've even made a transfer, got to the confirm button, and then like with a minute to go, and I've like thrown my phone over the room. That by the time I scramble over to get it, the deadline's gone, and that close to making transfers. But I'm just trying to play a game at the moment to give myself a chance of a good finish. And I think if I go into overhaul in the top 500 with 15 left, I don't think that's enough. I've firmly got in my mind this Chelsea swing of fixtures is the thing that is making me hold back a load of transfers, because I think the ground that can be made up by obviously we'll talk about this in detail.
That may change slightly though, because they're like one of their arranged games has come forward. So their game against Brighton is one of the ones that's moved forward. So some teams are going to get a backlog. Some teams are going to get a backlog of games where they play like 4 or 5 times within the space of like kind of 2.5 weeks. So
yeah, and it's more the thing that directly from the overhaul, teams like City and Liverpool will play a minimum of 2, maybe even 3 games before Chelsea even play. So that's that swing I'm talking about there. Obviously, we'll talk about this in detail in our overhaul special in a couple of weeks. But that's one of the main reasons why it's making me sit on my arse, because how I'm kind of judging the value of a transfer at the moment. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. But if I can get 3 games out of Ruben Dias and get, let's say 20 points out of the 3 games, and then move to a Chelsea player for 1 transfer, that to me is far, far more valuable than trying to nick a goal off someone in a one-off random game. And I think that's what I'm trying.
Norgard.
And I also think, and obviously we'll touch on this more and more, but Kovacic, I think, a 7.8 could be part of that massive Chelsea block as well, because he's back.
Mendy will be.
Mendy, maybe even a Chelsea back 4 or 5 plus Kovacic plus Jorginho is what I'm kind of thinking of at the moment when their games are really condensed. But yeah, we'll talk about that much more, I say. Dave, Simple Goal, I think he's second now. He was top. Very, very well played, Dave. Let's say one of your players gets injured, send off on Saturday. Assuming you already have captaincy, are there any other players you consider bringing in on Sunday or midweek? So this is what we kind of have touched on with Kane, for example. Is that they would Spurs and Brentford have the 3 games, plenty have 2. So I would say yes, because I think that Kane would have a very good chance of getting 20 points, 15 to 20 points in the 3 games. I know they're not the easiest games, where they are. Is it Arsenal? I can't think.
Leicester,
Arsenal, and Leicester,
and Chelsea.
And Chelsea. Yeah, I do think that Kane, Kane has got a chance. So I would personally do it for maybe Kane. I'm not sure I'd go for anyone else. What about you, Paul? Would you go for anyone else? Or
I think I'm the same as you. I think Kane. And say if Gallagher got injured on the Friday night and you didn't have a Watford player, or even if you did have a Watford player and you had a certain a third striking position open, you could double up, I guess. Like I said, though, I'm not overly confident with not getting to see the Watford lineup on the Saturday. I'll maybe hold on to the Tuesday.
Davla asks, if you have 22 transfers remaining, would you make 3 transfers for overhaul to cover captaincy days? I think that's kind of what I'm going to do, Dav. I'm in that exact spot. I think I'm going to make 2 to cover maybe the Brentford game. I'm now on Antonio as well. I think other than that, I'm broadly covered for captaincies, I think. But yeah, I'm thinking of doing that. I think it all depends on rank. It's very easy to say how many transfers are you going to have left at overhaul, right? You rank 10,000, but you're saving transfers back to have 20 at overhaul. It's very different for if you're in the top 50 or or kind of whatever it is, and where you are in your mini leagues as well. It's all contextual. Like for me, I don't think I'm going to win it, right? But I think maybe have a decent chance of a good finish. If I can finish in the top 500 with 20 left, I think that puts me in a pretty decent spot to really make a push the top 100, even have a chance of finishing a bit higher. Whereby, if I was 5,000 or 10,000 now, I think I'd be looking for a top 500 or 1,000 spot. But but also if you rank 5 or 10,000, but you still got ambitions for winning it, you maybe want to be a bit more aggressive with your transfers, try and get some points back. It's all contextual, I think. What are your thoughts on that, kind of quickly, Paul?
Yeah, I've always go along that line and then think about how much a transfer is worth based on what part of the season you're at. So if I'm sitting way above the line just now, I don't see them as valuable as the 15 to 20 points. And therefore, can I make 10 points or 12 points on transfers by using them now? I would take that into consideration.
Okay. And quickly, a last one off John. I think I know your answer to this one, Paul, but do you think Sky should offer anything to compensate for the recent postponements in FPL? We got an extra free hit. How about the idea of an extra 3 transfers for everyone?
No.
Absolutely not. For me, it's just part of the game. And the only reason that FPL have done it is because FPL, well, it's the same as Sky a little bit, but FPL just want player engagement. They just want people playing the game. And I think Sky are the same, but the problem with Sky is because it's such a substantial prize in place and things. I think it would have to be pretty extreme. Even the season where there was the big break of 4 months, they didn't change anything, did they? The game just carried on exactly as it was. Was that right?
Yeah, and Sky advertise cash leagues with a set of rules as well.
Yeah,
you're right. FPL, right. Whereas FPL is different. There's no cash leagues in FPL, and there's no overall prize. Or I don't know. They used to do a holiday, Thailand or something like that, didn't they? Or is it now tickets to
a Premier League game and a lovely, and I gotta say it is lovely, a lovely keyring as well. No,
I don't think they should change anything.
And you get penalised after you don't your friends are in cash leagues now in FPL. They will delete your team if they find out you're playing in a cash league. They go in and delete your team. So something to be aware of for anyone who does. Make sure you take cash out of the title of your league. I think they announced that a couple of weeks ago. Okay, let's have a quick look then at my team. I've got it now on screen. I'll read it off the podcast listeners. I've got Ramsdale in goals. I wish I had De Gea, but I'm been happy with Ramsdale ever since I brought him in for Mendy at the start of December. Got a back 3 of Rudiger, Diaz and Cancelo. Diaz is, he's doing well for me. He's been getting the passing recently as well, which has been good. Gallagher, Silva. Oh, I forgot. Rodri's late goal as well was a nice welcome bonus a couple of weeks ago. And Bowen as well. So yeah, I think it was Rodri and Bowen in that week, which kind of helped me up to where I am at the moment, 254th. I've got Salah, King, and Ronaldo. So I bought in King quite a while ago, actually, and I'm glad I've held on to him. So I've got him in place already. So my current kind of very, very loose thought at the moment, maybe to do Salah down to Norgard this evening in my B team, which isn't the same, but it's similar kind of setup. I'll probably do similar. I'll probably do Salah to Bomo, and the reason I'm not going for Tony is because if I do want the option of bringing in Kane, I can't bring him in then, so I'll probably do Salah to Norgard in this one, Salah to Bomo in the other one, and then the potential on that Sunday, if I know someone's going to miss the rest of them, I can then basically move any of my midfielders. I could even do Gallagher, right? Even if I wanted to, because Kane would have, was it a 3-for-1 he'd have over Gallagher, wouldn't he? Yeah. Which I'm not sure I would do that, but if someone gets injured or whatever else, I can make that move. I've got King in place. The only other one I may consider potentially is doing like someone to Antonio tomorrow in addition to Bowen, but I don't think I will, because I'm going on the thing that I think Norgard will kind of match Antonio, and I'll just have a big bet on Antonio, and I've got Antonio in Telegraph and FPL and wherever else anyway. So that's the good thing of playing multiple formats.
Offset in one game against another.
No, it just makes not captaining him. If he was captaincy, I'd probably make it, but it wouldn't be. Glenn says, get Tony and Fergie, live a little. I brought in Tony last time, and he came down with COVID and missed the captaincy game, which I brought him in for. So I think, didn't Bummo score a hat-trick on the weekend? He did, didn't he, in the FA Cup?
Yeah.
He's
came on as a sub and scored a hat.
He's the man in form. He is on form, and I know Tony gave him the penalty because it was for a hat trick, but he's taken the last two now as well. How many, for Brentford? Because he did it in that, where you lot who kept all that long were really spawny, and that he did nothing all game, but then got that 95th minute penalty, whatever it was, when you all captained him. When you all held on for him for that game on the 10th of December, was it? Yeah, that one.
You were just celebrating a defensive midfielder for City's goal at the weekend, and you're moaning about spawning.
Fair enough. I can't have that. Rodri's all right. He scores your goal, Rodri. To be
fair. Not bad. I'm definitely not slating him as a pick. He's a very good guy.
So they've kind of very, very roughly my plans. If anything happens to any of my players, when I know they're going to miss the games until overhaul, I'll probably Antonio definitely, maybe even a double up, maybe very, very loosely on Dennis and King, because Watford have now got 3. Is it Newcastle, Burnley, and Norwich? 3 mint fixtures, so that's even a possibility, But it'd be very much playing it day by day at the moment. Fantasy Football Hub, £500 league, 10th place Kieran Sutton, 9th Daniel Bright, 8th Joseph Finley Bader, 7th Christopher Ray, 6th Mark Hawes, 5th Maurice Weeks, our very own Carl, 4th Daniel Kerwin, 3rd place Carl as well. So Carl is 3rd and 5th. He's absolutely flying at the moment, as he tends to do in Sky. 2nd Michael Shipley, and top Liam Stevens. He's absolutely romping away at the top of the Hub £500 league. He's clear now by 45 points. Very, very well played to everyone in that top 10. And particularly Liam, who is flying away with it. Very, very well played. And the 4 Nations League, Liam second team, Paul's second team, and Ian's second teams are 8th, 9th, and 10th, respectively. There's a bit of a jump then. So Dan's 2 teams are currently in 6th and 7th, just behind Ian's team and my second team. Liam has jumped above my second team now, so he's on 1763 in 3rd place. My first team is just ahead. Was it just 9 points clear on set 1772, ranked at 354. And Paul's first team, what are you, Paul? You're still 48 ahead of me, swine. So Paul is ranked exactly 100. He is 40 points ahead of me. Very, very well played. Paul, Norgard is going to pull that back this evening. I feel Norgard's going to get like a 9-pointer tonight. You just feel it. You feel it in my. What are you laughing at?
This is got that livery thing all over it again, isn't it?
Well, the fact that the Norgard's got 5 games, I don't know, but no, I think Norgard will get some points this evening. If Norgard scores, I just wouldn't look at your phone if I were you, because you're getting it both barrels. It'll be superb. And John L says, Bummo only got a hat-trick at the weekend because the goalposts are widened and higher in the FA Cup. Absolutely. Well played there, John. And that's it for us for this week. We hope you have enjoyed. As usual, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. Your continued support is much, much appreciated. And thank you so much, Paul, for your brilliant insight and thoughts. Where can people find you, Paul?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty 1 MCANULTY.
Fantastic. And my Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergie. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub, Sky and TFF YouTube channel, and also available on all major podcast platforms. If you liked what you watched, please click the like button. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast versions and leave some comments. Leave us a 5-star review. It would be so much appreciated. You wouldn't believe it. The more likes, the more comments, the more everything we get, the more it appears on people's lists and searches. So it would be much, much appreciated if you could, and we can just get our podcast, our videos and message out there just to more and more people. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are at FFH_HQ, and our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH_Sky. So please follow and feel free to ask any questions. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you will find everything you need for fantasy football all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, and much, much more, and much, 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 much more coming up in the next few months. I'm incredibly excited for for what is coming up in the next few months. We will be back next week looking ahead to Sky Game Week 24, which will actually be our last podcast prior to our overhaul special. Stay safe and have a great game week. Goodbye for now.